Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I am glad to have Miriam Schulman in the house. Miriam is an artist and the founder of the Inspiration Place. Through her business coaching plan program, the Artist Incubator, and popular podcasts, she's helped thousands of artists around the world create more time and freedom to do what they love by teaching them how to go from so-so sales to sold-out collections. She initially pursued finance working at a lucrative hedge fund. After witnessing 9/11, she decided to become a full-time working artist. Since then, Miriam and her art have been featured in major publications, including Forbes, Entrepreneur, The New York Times, Art of Man, Professional Artist Magazine, and Art Journaling Magazine. Her artwork has also been featured on NBC's Parenthood and the Amazon series Hunters with Al Pacino. You've probably heard me raving about her new book all week long. It's called Artpreneur. It was published by HarperCollins. It is a must read. It is a must read if you are a creative person in business, and it's a must read if you are just a person in business, because it is just so good. I've also referenced her numerous times this week. When you heard me say procrastinating, it came from this person right here. So Miriam, so glad to have you here. You hired a virtual assistant through the Front Row CEO program. And we'd love to hear about this because, as you know, we're talking to people who are in different industries. And so as an artist, you know, you have a different, obviously you have two different kinds of audiences. You have artists, and then you have artists who are growing online business, and you're doing your whole online business thing. But I think you see things through a lens that the rest of us might not see. So as it pertains to artists specifically, what are some of the things that an artist could hand over to a virtual assistant?
Okay. So first of all, let me say that I went through Jen's program at the perfect time, because I always had somebody coming to me and I thought that was the only way things work. I'm an artist. She comes to my studio. She helps me. And I went through the program in March 2020. Was that?
Sounds about right. It was COVID
right.
time. Yeah.
Anyway, it was February, March, something like that. And what happened was not just because of COVID, but right when COVID was about to happen, was happening, we just didn't know it. When it was happening, my assistant said to me, "I want to move to Vermont." And so what I want you to know is what Jen's program helped me do was also transition her into being a remote employee. So like I put her through all the onboarding that I was going to do with my my VA. And we learned so many systems that helped us function better as a team remotely. And as an artist, it was such a gift to be able to have my secret life in my studio back. Like, you know, to really have that introvert time where I'm alone working in my studio, because I was always having her come to me. And so it was a little bit, I didn't realize how much that was disrupting me. So like getting over the idea that people had to work in my physical space was my first hurdle.
But your first person was a physical in real life person.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then what I want to say is, what you asked me is, first of all, there's what do you give an assistant, whether they're virtual or not? And at that time, when I hired Anna, I was primarily a visual artist without all this other stuff. I think I had just added online classes just before she joined me. So a lot of her initial, and I thought I had the mindset that she couldn't do any of that. Of course, now she does all of that. But a lot of the things that I gave her, even in the beginning, were like researching keywords for Etsy, making the SEO more friendly on my website, answering customer emails. So there's just like a mountain of things. And I would rather chop off an arm now than to give up the help that I have from her and the rest of my team.
Yeah, right. I mean, even like a lot of people, their first question is like, what's the ROI? What's the ROI? Well, like if the only return on your investment is the fact that you never have to do a task that you can't stand, you know, you get to let go of that one task you just loathe, that you just never want to do again. I mean, that's for me, like, okay, I've gotten, great. Like that's worth it by itself. But obviously, now that, if Anna is doing all this other stuff for you, and let's say you didn't have this other component to your business, you were still, you were mainly just selling your art. That would give you more time to do what?
Yeah. I mean, create art. I mean, here's the thing. Like you said with your last guest that we only have a certain number of hours of the day. And we always tell ourselves the lie. If we had more hours in the day, we would get more things done. It's a total lie because we don't have more energy. If I were to wave a magic wand and say, you have 3 more hours and you have 3 more hours and you have 3 more hours, we would just use them to watch Netflix. I mean, we just do not have energy at the end of the day to work any harder than we are right now.
So true.
So I want to answer some things that are happening in the chat because there's this belief that someone has to come to you. And so now I have not only Anna, but I've hired multiple VAs through Jen's process. And something that happens to me as a physical business owner is I'll send out invitations and they'll come back to me, return of address is wrong, like this person's. And so what I would do is I would take a picture of my phone and I would send it, upload that picture to my VA and say, please mark them in our database that this is the wrong address so that we don't continue to send them postcards. And so there's things like that all the time. There's definitely ways, like somebody says, well, what about my notes? It would be so much faster for you to take pictures of all your handwritten notes and upload that to an assistant to digitize it for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And
Ellie. I think somebody else already gave her the same exact thing, but this totally works. There's almost nothing that can't be done by your assistant. Like they can't put the paint on the canvas for me. They can't record the podcast for me, but everything else they can do.
Right. But those are the 2 things you love to do. And
that's right.
I'm so glad you said that because I use you should just be pressing record, whatever record means for you. Right. Is it your brush to the canvas? Is it literally, recording a video or an audio, or is it, whatever it is, like that thing you went into business, you can do that when you have help. But, there's obstacles, Miriam. And so let's talk about that. Like, did you have any obstacles in the beginning, like in mindset stuff? Like, I mean, maybe you didn't, but did you?
Yeah. A lot of it is trusting that they're smart, like you think like, oh, that you're the only one who can set up a funnel. Like,
so true.
Okay. No, you can't tell somebody here, set up a funnel. You have to give them little pieces. And so that's the way it would be moved over to my assistants. It's like, maybe we would start off, okay, could you design this lead page? Here's how I want it to look. And this is, I would put like the words that I want on the page into a Google Doc and say, this is the first section. This is the second section. This is the pictures I want here. And P.S. doing that work makes whatever you're doing that much better, because when you sit down and say, well, I'm just going to figure it out all right now by myself, you waste so much time. So even the fact that I have to plan these things out for them, it makes everything so much better. So maybe that would be the first thing that I would give out. And I had a mindset thing like, oh, only I can send the email out for the talks about my podcast, because it has to be in my words. So now we changed it. No. One of my assistants will put that email together and send me the draft. And then I check it before it goes out and I can tweak it. And it's so much easier and faster to edit somebody else than to start from scratch, because otherwise I'm looking for the link and I'm looking for the picture and I'm checking that the links aren't broken. So she does all that for me. Now all I have to do is like zhuzh it up and make it sound like funny and like me.
And like, not to mention the whole Chat GPT thing that is like, helping us that much more. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, just it's the new open AI that allows you to ask questions and get these amazing written results. What we've been doing is same, like my team will write an email and then I review it before it goes out. But now there's another step before they give it to me. And I know you're doing this a lot too, Miriam, is that we ask them to stick it into ChatGPT, and then it comes to me. So it's even less that I have to critique. So we got some good questions. Sheila says, what do you think is the most challenging part of the program, Miriam?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I was just in there the other day. So right now we're hiring a video editor, and it's just like, okay, what's the email that I need to send to do whatever it is, decline an applicant? Where's this? So I don't know. I think maybe the hardest part for me is when you get a lot of good applicants, like sorting them through, like, how do I say no to people? Like, how do I, what things do I really need? But what happens is, as you do something, you will get better at it. It's kind of like Jen Lehner's giving you a kit. Everybody has their own kit in life. Like, I have my body, my brain, my skill set, right? And, I look over you. Okay, what kit do you have? What instructions work with your kit? But my kit is different than your kit. So you have to like kind of personalize your own kit. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually,
analogies.
I went through my own system recently. Our whole team did, because we were looking for a new full-time VA for my business. So even though I teach this stuff day in and day out, and we do hire, part-time people. I've recently hired, a video editor and so forth, or I'll help other CEOs find a VA through my system. To find a full-time VA for our business, I haven't done that in a long, long time. And I didn't do it this time because my team can do it for me because they know the system, which will be the same for you too, which is what Miriam does too.
That's right. That's right. So like with the video editor, I have my other VA go through and say, okay, these are the things that automatically disqualifies them. So if they're giving answers and it's filling out a spreadsheet, and I'll say, just cross them off if they didn't do the things that Jen tells us we have to make them do to be very detail oriented. But then I've added it to fit my own needs. So for example, it's important for me that we meet together as a team. And one of the video editors I recently tried out, she did not want to come to those meetings. Like she, every time was an excuse. So I finally, said, okay, no, thank you. And you're not a good fit. And which is the letter I pulled out of Jen's program. And then, so for my next application, I now say, are you able and willing to come to a Zoom team meeting at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time? So that's part of the application. So that there is that understanding and that awareness up front. So that's why I said that's the whole point of like personalizing it.
Yeah, I love that example.
And then somebody says, how about organizing? I think that is a big part of Jen's program that really isn't, there's so much more value in this program than just hiring somebody, because it's really teaching you how to organize a system for a team to work together. So about organizing a Dropbox and doing all these things that make a virtual team run efficiently. So I use Asana. She teaches Trello.
We teach Asana now too.
Okay. But the point is, it's like, that's what I use. So, Slack, all these things that she does to make things work efficiently. And that's why I brought up at the very beginning, I had this in-person employee and she wanted to be remote, and Jen's program allowed me to do that. So it's much more than just hiring people. It's really about how to manage a remote team. So it's how to get really good help.
Yeah. And Allie Cat Adventures says, how do you judge how long tasks will take? How do you know they are being efficient with their time? I'm asking because I've struggled with these areas with VAs in the past, even when they've turned in Clockify reports on their use of time. What is your main mode for communicating tasks and following up? Email, something like Slack. Let me jump in this real quick, and then I'd love to hear what you have to say, Miriam. But I want to say, first of all, when you hire your perfect match VA, having to wonder whether or not they're padding their hours is never going to be a problem. Okay. Because we have screened so well that you're not going to get caught up in that minutia. Okay. You're going to have a VA that, if anything, shortchanges herself. And I know this because, like I said, I just ran eight people through a trial week. And we had one person who messaged us and said, I'm going to pause the timer now because I'm going to watch some YouTube videos to help me get more up to speed on this. Like, no. You can charge for your time watching YouTube. Go ahead. That's part of the process. Like, keep your timer going. So there's so many other things to consider in that, on that, there's so many things to screen for before you ever hire that by the time you get the person who is your perfect match VA, that's not an issue. Number one. Number two, I talk in the program about reaching a stage with your VA down the road where you pretty much commit to a minimum number of hours, sort of like a salary model. And that way, neither one of you really care about watching half hour or an hour. It's like the time takes what it takes to get the job done. And mentally, you're going to pay up to 20 or you're going to pay up to 40, because at these rates, you can afford to do that. And that is one of the luxuries of doing it this way. It takes away that nagging feeling like you have to oversee if they really clocked out, if they were really doing the work. If the work is done, the work is done. If the work is done by the time you need it done, it's also done in a timely fashion. What do you care if it took 15 versus 20? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. They say it was 20, but you think maybe they only did 15. That's my outlook. Go ahead. What do you think, Miriam?
Yeah, we use Hubstaff, and when we have candidates, it becomes very clear during that trial week if somebody is a time puncher but what I mean by that is like, okay, it's 8:00. I'm turning on the timer now. And they sit there and they wait for you to tell them what to do. You don't really want people like that, because you want people who really want to make a difference and care about your company. And they're not just time clock punchers. So those types of things, those personality things really become apparent during the trial week.
That's a better answer.
No, I think your answer was great. And I do trust my employees. We do have them on Hubstaff. It does track where they are, what they're doing, but I only check it if work isn't getting done. So I did have one instance with a part-time VA who wanted to go full-time, but wasn't getting her work done during the part-time hours. And I was like, wait a minute. I thought that she just didn't have enough hours. And then I was checked into it. So I had to talk with her. And since then it's been fine, but that was immaturity on her part. So, these are human beings. They're not machines. They're not robots, and humans are humans. And if you are a good boss and incentivize them and treat them beautifully, they will respond in kind.
That last thing you said is going to get chopped up we're going to pull that out as a soundbite, because that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I want to just follow up on what Miriam said about Hubstaff and many software, a lot of tools like Hubstaff, like Clockify, and there's a few others, will allow you to not just keep track of time, but it will actually take a screenshot of what they're working on. So in those first few weeks, when you are feeling a little nervous about things and you just aren't sure, it's a great tool for people to just sort of feel more confident. And it came in handy for me one time with a VA who I had given a YouTube project to, and I just happened to check his screenshots and realized, like, 3 days into the assignment, he was in the wrong YouTube channel. He was in my personal YouTube, not my professional YouTube. So thank goodness, I was able to be like, wait, and salvage the rest of the week. Yeah. And
I can also say, you don't have to pay them by the hour. I just don't have a good sense of how long it takes to edit a video. I would love to be able to pay them the same way I do my podcaster, where I say it's a half-hour video and this is what you get paid to edit it. The only problem is doing something like that, and we know this as business owners, that like sometimes a video only needs a little bit, and sometimes you want a ton of bells and whistles. So then you can't really do it like the length of the video or whatever. So I just think it's also more fair for them to have those boundaries. I find that especially with Anna, the thing about keeping track of her hours, it keeps her from overworking. Because she would work more than 35 hours a week if I let her. And I just give her raises every year and give her bonuses and paid time off.
Yes. Treating her beautifully, as you said.
Like family.
Yep. And that's the thing. So many of us have, that's the unexpected bonus for all of this. Yes, you get someone who is going to help you be more efficient and productive in your business. And they're going to, bring you sanity that you've been lacking for a while. But many people come back and say, I wasn't expecting this whole beautiful relationship to blossom. It doesn't happen overnight, but over time it's like, wow, you really, and you're changing lives too. They're changing your life. You're changing their life. It's a pretty awesome thing. Okay. So what tips, Miriam, would you give to people who are like kind of nervous about whether or not they're ready for this?
Oh, you cannot
hire. That is.
Okay. Jen, you've heard me say this before, but if you don't need help, your dream is too small.
Ooh.
You can't, and if your dream is too small, you can't grow bigger than your dream.
Period.
Mic drop. I'm going to go have lunch now.
You're right. Yeah, go enjoy lunch. Okay, you guys, we have the one and only Miriam Schulman here. And so before she leaves us to have lunch, do you have any questions for her? She'll shoot you straight, about the program. And like she said, she's been through it more than once. So she'll tell you.
Every time. And then somebody in the chat was asking me about asking you about the email. So Jen gives us everything in the program as Google Docs. So I make a copy of everything. I personalize it and I have it organized in my Google Drive as human resources. And then I have all the subfolders. So I have those templates personalized and ready. Sometimes I will go back to the program because she does update it. Like she's updated some things from before. So I really like that we have lifetime access, right?
Yeah. And you always get the newest version of the program and all the replays from all the live calls.
Because she's updated what happens when you part ways with the VA for whatever reason. Like there's a checklist of how to make sure that there's a clean parting of ways. And that's very helpful too.
Yep. When giving assignments through, do you just, we didn't answer that part of the question. Like, how do we communicate?
I use Slack. So what I do is so Anna, I call her now my engineer. These are all the things I used to think I would do myself, and she's figured it out. So we have a channel called, one of my VAs is Addie. So I have a Slack channel called Addie Tasks. And if I send her a message on Addie Task, it automatically populates her Asana. So not only is she being messaged in Slack about what I want her to do, but it becomes a to-do item on her Asana. And I have that for every single team member. So we use Slack with Asana, and I think Sapier's. See, I don't know how it works. Somebody else set it up for me. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. We use Trello and Voxer. Yeah, as Nika said, but it's like whatever works for you.
Yeah, I don't like that chirping Voxer. I won't even do it with my friends anymore. Jen will tell you. It's like, it gives me anxiety. I like quiet and,
You can mute your Voxer. You can mute it, but then you might miss the notifications, which then could lead to bad things. So, okay. Well, Miriam, this has been fantastic. You guys, don't forget to pick up your copy of Artpreneur. I'm not just saying this because Miriam is my friend. It really is one of the best books that I've read this year. And then also her podcast, The Inspiration Place, is fantastic. So make sure and go check out her podcast and leave a review for her.
Can I give one more commercial for the book?
Yeah.
So if you order before next Wednesday, we're having a special branding edition. And the guests for this branding edition are Jennifer Kem, who has been Oprah's branding expert. She's absolutely amazing. She actually is a Filipino woman who is a tremendous business owner. And India Jackson of Flaunt Your Fire, she's also coming as a branding expert. And I believe the third guest is Whitney McNeil, who is a psychic medium, but she talks about being spiritual and ambitious. So it's a special branding edition. So you get to either join us live or get that recording when you pre-order the book from artpreneurbook.com.
Okay, artpreneurbook.com.
Okay, that's my commercial.
Y'all. That was a really good commercial. That sounds like that's an amazing event. I'll be there.
Yeah, you should come. Okay.
Say it again,
artpreneurbook.com. I don't care where you order the book from. Just put in the order number on that page with your name and email, and we'll make sure you get invited.
Awesome. All right, Miriam, thank you so much. Feel free to stick around or not. We're going to be going, everyone. We're going to be going pretty much all day long here. So let me get back on Spotlight and reintroduce myself and what we're doing here today. Our next guest is going to be